When I was using the Canon C200, the SolidPod was a lifesaver for recording RAW without breaking the bank. Although it's built really well and it works perfectly, it's a little bit bulky and it can be awkward to mount to your camera. A few weeks ago they sent me over the SolidPod Slim, which was great because it's worlds difference, and I had really been enjoying using the original SolidPod on my Zcam E2, even with those drawbacks I just mentioned. By the way, stick around to the end of this video to get a discount code where you can save even more when you're picking one of these up for your Zcam. So if you don't already know, the SolidPod is a metal housing for an SATA SSD drive, like this one from Kingston, which costs just $90 for 500 gigabytes, with a cable that runs to a passive CFast 2.0 card, letting you record just like you normally would, but at a fraction of the cost. NKI, the maker of the SolidPod, does have a few drives that they've tested and recommended, and I'll put a link in the description where you can find more up-to-date information. Before getting any further into this, one of the biggest changes from the first generation to the second generation is right there in the name. The SolidPod Slim is a lot more slim and compact. Honestly, I think it looks cooler too. I really love the little red accent on the SSD tray. The body of the SolidPod Slim is only 10mm thick, and while the original had a built-in mount that basically doubled the height when mounted on a camera, the mounts on the new SolidPod are obviously slim, and they're also modular. There are 3 mounts included: a NATO mount, which I've been using, a low profile mount, and one similar to the original but still noticeably thinner. They all screw right into a recessed cutout on the new SolidPod body, meaning that they don't add any more thickness or size than necessary. The NATO mount is great because you can remove the entire SolidPod quickly to bring with you and plug into your CFast card reader just like a normal CFast card. For me, the NATO rail has been a good compromise of convenience and not letting it stick out too far and awkwardly on your camera. My only complaint is that since it's so low profile, it can be tricky to get your finger under there to push down on the safety pin in your NATO rail to slide it off. You could always unscrew it completely, or if you have something flat like a key on you, you can just slide that under there to help release it more easily. Plus, with the NATO rail mount, when you remove it, you still have just a standard NATO rail on your rig that could easily be used for anything else. Not to mention, it's perfect to use with cages that already have NATO rails built in. The low profile mount screws into your cage with either 1 or 2 included screws, and then you mount the SolidPod semi-permanently to your rig. The optional included thumb screw for quick removal of the SSD tray would come in handy here, so you can just slide out your drive and stick it into a reader to read the files. In case you're wondering, the Slim drive will work with the original USB 3.1 SolidPod reader, and they are working on a new Slim USB SATA reader as well. If you go this route, you could also just bring your camera with you and sit it by your computer as you use the 10-inch cable to reach over and plug your CFast card into a CFast reader if that's what you have. Finally, you have the 1/4-inch screw mount, which is similar to the original but slimmer. If you want to throw this onto a magic arm, a ball head, cold shoe adapter, or one of these included 1/4-inch to 1/4-inch or 3/8-inch to 1/4-inch adapters, you could do just that. Again, I was really excited to see the flexibility in the different ways that you can mount this new version, as well as the fact that each and every one of those are way more slim and low profile than the original. Obviously, with something like this, you are adding something extra to your rig instead of just recording to internal cards, but the way that it's designed really does let it be an integral part of your rig and not stand out like a sore thumb. Because it's using that CFast slot on the camera though, it is a more reliable connection than using a USB-C SSD drive on the Zcam, for example, which can have issues with dropped frames from even just bumping the cable. Plus, it means that now you can leave the USB-C port open for plugging in a phone or a tablet if you want. Like I mentioned, the SolidPod cable is around 10 inches long, and it's meant to stand up to some abuse, even from being squished in the door of the C200, for example, so it should last a good while. Having used that first generation SolidPod with the C200 myself, I put it through quite a lot of abuse, and I mean, it's stood up perfectly, there's no problems whatsoever. But if you do run into any problems, SolidPod will replace that cable for you free of charge, and they'll send out a loaner for you before you even send yours back for repair. I've had the pleasure of meeting the people behind the SolidPod in real life, and I can honestly say that they're great and trustworthy people, and the fact that they offer such great service really does stand up to that fact. Anyway, the passive CFast card has read speeds up to 550 megabytes per second, and in my testing it hasn't had a single problem with any of the resolutions, frame rates, or codecs on the Zcam E2 or E2 F6, and of course even the RAW on the C200 in the past. I've put it through hours and hours of both real recording on shoots and simple stress tests in the studios, and never myself had a single problem. Getting back to those USB-C SSDs for a second though, if you do have one of the Samsung T5 drives and you want to use it with this new SolidPod housing, you actually can mod it to work together with this. I'll put a link below to a step-by-step guide on how to make that work, and while I'm not positive, I'm guessing that the issues with the T5 that have been discussed in the Zcam group have most likely come from other internals inside of there and or the USB connection, but the drive itself with the simpler SolidPod should work well from what I can tell. So to sum it up, I really cannot imagine anything like this being any more compact or versatile, but who knows what the future is going to hold. In any case, as far as external recording or cheap media solutions for the E2 series go, this is easily the sleekest and most compact and I think most trustworthy way to go without a doubt. With a 500GB SSD costing under $100 and an equivalent CFast card costing about $500, even factoring in the cost of the SolidPod itself, you can save tons of money if you're going to be recording raw or high quality ProRes videos on something like the Zcam E2 series. The one other drawback for this system is that you do have to leave the CFast door open because there's actually a cable coming out of that CFast adapter card. But if you're really concerned about it, you could always just cover it up with gaff tape, and this camera itself is not weather sealed anyway. So as promised, if you are a Zcam user, you can use this code right here on screen to get $30 off of your SolidPod Slim purchase until around the middle of May. But if you already own the SolidPod version 1, you can actually get $70 off and upgrade to the SolidPod Slim. Be sure to check out all of the links in the video description for up-to-date and complete information, but if you have any other questions or comments, be sure to let me know down below and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Don't forget to hit this video with a thumbs up, subscribe, and as always, thank you for watching.